Welcome, everybody. Fantasy Football Live as we get ready for Week 10 in the National Football League. Andy McNamara alongside Shoaib. Make sure you get us on Twitter at AndyMC81, at SNSAli. Of course, you can leave your fantasy football questions in the comment section for whatever platform you're watching on: Sportsnet, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, whatever. This hour is meant for you, people, and we'll get you ready. Starts and sits, any injury updates, and all that. Show coming out about half an hour ago. All tests cleared. No COVID cases right now across the NFL. So that's sort of the weekly update. We're clear for now.
No postponements. Everything is good for now. There were a couple of COVID things that people were concerned with this week, right? Remember, Big Ben was on the COVID list.
Yep.
He got taken off, so he will play today against the Bengals. And then some members of the Buffalo Bills getting put on the COVID list as well, or at least one of them. Josh Norman getting put on the COVID list. He will not play. And Levi Wallace and Dean Marlowe and Tyler Croft will also not play because of close contacts. But it is good news when, for the most part, all games are a go. So no real fantasy quagmires, it feels like, this week.
No, and there is like a sort of case in Minnesota where they're going to redo a test for the Monday night game, but all in all, things look pretty good, which is great news. So you can get your questions in there. As far as injuries today, David Montgomery, talked about that Monday nighter. He is out for the Chicago Bears. Kenny Golladay for the Detroit Lions, also out. You look for, on the positive side, Nick Chubb in for the Cleveland Browns. He is expected to be full go. And Show, we talk about it. This is the time of year you got to watch weather because that impacts a lot. And in Cleveland today, with Deshaun Watson, we know how dynamite he can be, but it's supposed to be windy, rainy, wet, and they don't have a whole lot of options to run the football because David Johnson just got put on the IR. So it's Duke Johnson, who we talked about it earlier on the fantasy show, 8 to 10 a.m. every Sunday morning across the Sportsnet radio network. Duke Johnson as a PPR play this week. It makes a whole lot of sense.
Absolutely, yeah. Weather is always something we have to pay attention to. I have a feeling that the weather will be an issue for, I think it was the Packers-Jags game well in Wisconsin. And I mean, if you're looking at me right now here on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch, it's a little dark here because there's a weather warning here in Toronto as well, Andy. So it's a weather all around today here in North America. But yeah, I think when it comes to Texans and Browns, it's true. It basically makes me want to fade on all pass catchers to a degree, right? I mean, you probably have to start Will Fuller and you probably have to start Jarvis Landry to a lesser extent, but guys who get the deep ball passes, right? I mean, I wonder how much it'll affect someone like Brandon Cooks, for example, right?
Sure.
Who've been really good since Bill O'Brien had been fired, and they kind of took the chains off the offense. So I do like Duke Johnson for sure. I think PPR, he is much more attractive. I wouldn't be surprised, like I told you earlier on the fantasy show, I wouldn't be surprised, Andy, if we saw some kind of stat line for Duke Johnson along the lines of 6 carries for 32 yards and then 7 catches for 88 yards or something like that.
Screaming that type of game.
Yeah.
It's just, it's yelling at you to do that. I think Deshaun Watson's going to be the top rusher in that game. And we've been getting a lot of questions in this week with Nick Chubb coming back. Do I sit Kareem Hunt? Do I trade him if your trading deadline hasn't come back? No, because folks, Kareem Hunt has had his best fantasy performances this year with Nick Chubb in the lineup. Those first 4 weeks, he's averaged just under 17 fantasy points. Now, PPR is where his plus side is. And all 3 of his rushing touchdowns came with Nick Chubb in the lineup. So we think about it. Wet day, right? Houston defense that's giving up the most rushing yards per game at just under 160 rushing yards. Chubb, Hunt, this is making too much sense. You can both guys up today. In DraftKings, typically 2 running backs you don't want to stack, but this might be a case where in one of your DraftKings contests, a Chubb Hunt stack might make some sense.
I'm going up against Kareem Hunt in a game I need to clinch the number 1 seed in a particular playoff, or at least top 2 seed, let's say, in a particular league, my big money league. So I'm hoping you're wrong, but I feel like you're probably going to be right.
They love to, and especially those quick little passes again with the weather, right? So let's get to some of the questions here, folks. Let's start it off.
Let's do it.
Their buddy Koala Bear on YouTube. Morning again, fellas. Hello. Boyd or Ayuk for a WR2 today? Now, the Bengals are going up against the Steelers, and it looked like it was going to be wet yesterday. That looks like it's been dialed back a bit on the weather front, just overcast and cool. So shouldn't impact, at least right now, unless the winds pick up. in the passing game. I like Boyd, but I think I like Ayuk a little bit better just because Deebo Samuel's out and he was a target hog last week.
That's fair. I think that's fair. I'm going to go Tyler Boyd only because based on what we saw the Saints do, and that's where the 49ers are playing, and the Saints are at home as well. And I know home field advantage is not exactly what it used to be, considering there are no fans, or at the very least, in most cases, very few fans. But at the same time, we just saw the Saints last week just dismantle Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, one of the supposedly best teams, not just in the NFC, but in the NFL. And so the Saints are at home now against the much injured San Francisco 49ers. I would feel a little more comfortable with Tyler Boyd, who is, of course, Joe Burrow's top target. He likes him. He leads the team in basically virtually every category for wide receivers. And we saw that the Steelers' defense isn't as impregnable as we once thought. And I mean, we saw what Garrett Gilbert had a decent to okay day against the Pittsburgh defense last week. So if he can, I feel like Joe Burrow might be able to as well.
So close to pulling off that upset. That would have been
crazy in Survivor leagues. If Pittsburgh had lost, man, I went with the Patriots last week, and I mean, I sweated that out literally until the last play of the game. But if Pittsburgh had lost, man, that would have been one of the biggest. That would have been the biggest upset probably of the season.
Oh, no doubt. Would have broke the Steelers' unbeaten streak. Got another one here. Melvin Gordon or Phillip Lindsay for RB2. I got to go with Melvin Gordon, although this is a true timeshare. And it's been interesting because it's been very rare when both have been healthy at the same time this season.
Right.
But I still feel Melvin Gordon is the play there, although certainly both being on the field limits their individual upside.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you like to use the term, especially when it comes to the Bills, and I'm sure we'll get some questions about Zach Moss and Devin Singletary. But for guys like that, it really just quote unquote cannibalizes from each other, right? And that's the kind of thing. It is really a true timeshare. Melvin Gordon, I like Melvin Gordon a little more. I don't know if this is PPR or not, but I like Melvin Gordon more, if only because he gets a little more work in the passing game. So that's always an upside as well.
Exactly.
If you can get a little more work, then you take that guy.
Yeah, and it's a good matchup overall for them against the Raiders. Just overall, folks, if you're looking at for Broncos today, the Raiders defense does not pressure the quarterback.
No.
The quarterbacks can sit comfortably. And if you give Drew Lock time, we've seen in spurts, he can light you up a little bit, and so they don't do a lot of turnovers. They kind of sit back and they'll give you like over the middle and then sort of tackle you. So it's a defense that can certainly be gashed. So I'm kind of bullish. Now you check Jerry Jeudy's injury. He's banged up a bit, but like Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy, I like them both today, and probably Melvin Gordon.
I also really like the line for this game, Andy. I think the last I checked, I'm just looking down on my notes here. I think Denver, plus 3.5 versus Las Vegas, and I mean plus 3.5. I mean, I expect. First of all, division games are always kind of wacky.
Yeah.
So you never know. In the Raiders, like you said, the defense is not as good as it maybe was a couple of seasons ago when Khalil Mack was still there, which feels like a long time ago, actually, when you think about it. But yeah, I really do feel like when it comes to the line for this game, plus 3.5, I'm probably going to lay down a couple shekels on the Broncos today.
And we're going to have our best bets and some prop plays as the show goes on as well, in addition to all the fantasy football tips. All right, let's get to Scott on Facebook. Carr or Goff? I like Derek Carr better here, Show. And the reason is I know the last 2 weeks, we look at the numbers. Now, 2 weeks ago in Cleveland, the weather was horrible. Like, again, that's why you just don't look at the stats. You look at the situation. Wind was going sideways, snow, rain. It was awful. It wasn't a good throwing day. Now, disappointing last week, though, against the Chargers. Much better weather conditions. Only 14 fantasy points. 2 touchdowns, though, but low yardage. I still like Carr better, even though for Goff, we've seen him pop. I just feel like Carr has done better overall this year, maybe in a bit more of a groove. Right. And I'm just not trusting that Rams offense.
It is hard, right? Because you saw wasn't last week, but it was the week before. The Rams played the Dolphins, and Goff threw the ball. I think it was something like 60 or 61 times he threw the ball, and they still lost that game.
And they still lost.
But at the same time, the Dolphins' defense is much better than the Seahawks' defense is, right? Like the Seahawks did get Jamal Adams back, but they still have not been great. Carlos Dunlap has been playing as well, still have not been that great. So I still think I would probably feel more comfortable going with Goff, and I actually have another bet. I actually have the over on his overall passing yardage today. If only because they're playing the Seahawks. Like if they were playing another better passing defense, I'd be with you and say, yeah, Goff. Don't know how much I trust that passing offense. But against the Seahawks, I mean, this might be as good a get right spot for Jared Goff as there might be all season, because I agree with you. I don't know how much upside there is beyond playing the Seahawks, basically.
What's the prop bet on the over for the yards?
289.5. So you're basically basing him. Yeah, so you're basically betting on him to get around 300 yards, essentially, which I think is at least against the Seahawks defense, I think is possible.
It could be doable. And Scott on Facebook, in addition to your question, check if Teddy Bridgewater's on the wire.
Yeah,
I'm bullish on Teddy Bridgewater. I got him in my sleeper article. Comes out every Saturday on Sportsnet.ca, waiver wire every Tuesday. I think Teddy Bridgewater has a path to have a really good fantasy week. He's coming off of his second 300-plus yard throwing performance in a month. The Tampa Bay defense has given up the 13th most yards per attempt, and they've really clamped down on the run, giving up the fewest average yards per carry on the ground. So we look at no Christian McCaffrey. Mike Davis, kind of the poor man's McCaffrey. He can still catch. You got DJ Moore. You got Robbie Anderson. Curtis Samuel's been popping.
Sure.
I really think Teddy Bridgewater, if he's there, I would honestly take him over either of those guys. Although I do agree with you, Show, as far as Goff, if he's ever going to have a good fantasy day, it's going to be today.
Yeah, right. And also Teddy Bridgewater, 5th, I think, in the league in total passing yards. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought, right? Yeah. And he's a QB 11 in Yahoo leagues as far as fantasy goes. So let's get Patrick on Facebook. Been scouring the waiver wire. Need 2 wide receivers and a flex, half PPR. Chark, John Brown, Justin Jefferson, Kirk, Josh Reynolds, Duke Johnson. Let's cut Josh Reynolds right out.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's cut him right out. So what does he need? He needs 2 wide receivers. Okay, so we're cutting out Reynolds. I think Duke Johnson for sure.
Yep, half PPR. Flex. I like it. Yep.
So let's put Duke in as the flex. And that's because, folks, David Johnson, by the way, put on the IR for a concussion.
Yeah.
Woof.
Out for at least 3 weeks.
Yeah. So you got Duke, who cannot run in between the tackles. It's a good thing it's a PPR. Standard, you're not touching Duke Johnson. He averaged because he came from the Browns, got drafted there. He rushes for less than 3 yards per carry in between the tackles. He's just not that explosive. Man. But around the sides.
I remember last year, quick aside, last year I bet a prop bet. I think it was in the playoffs. It was against the Chiefs. I remember when the Texans had the big lead against the Chiefs and they blew the lead and the Chiefs came back and, of course, went on to win the Super Bowl. And I remember I put a prop bet down on Duke Johnson. All he had to do was get over 10 yards rushing. I think it was 10.5 rushing yards. I think he had his very first carry of the game was for, I think, like 7 or 8 yards. And I thought to myself, I'm laughing. Gosh. I'm laughing now. And then he did not get another carry for the rest of the game. He got a couple of catches. But yeah, so you're right. He does not run in between the tackles whatsoever.
That hurts. That sucks. Oh, how close. Because the thing is with Duke, you get the ball to him in space. That could be tosses, quick outs, whatever. So Duke Johnson for sure as the flex.
Yep.
Wide receiver, Chark, let's get back to the weather. Green Bay, close to freezing, 30 to 45 mile per hour, gusting winds, snow and rain mixture in Green Bay, Wisconsin for a Florida team. Yeesh. I'm going to pass on the Charkster today. Give me Brown. Give me Kirk for sure. Give me Christian Kirk, 100%. I love Christian Kirk.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Like I think I can safely also cut Justin Jefferson, if only because playing the Bears defense is never a good recipe for any wide receiver. Here's this for a stat. The Bears defense has only allowed 1 top 20 performance from a fantasy receiver this entire year, season, which is pretty wild. So I think you can safely downgrade pretty much every receiver that ever faces the Bears. So Justin, and then on top of that, the Vikings just don't pass the ball enough for their passing offense to be too viable, even for someone like Adam Thielen, who we all really like, right? But I mean, they just don't throw the ball enough. Justin Jefferson is cut as well, pardon me. And then I'm probably going to go Kirk for sure because they're playing the Bills, and the Bills, like I mentioned off the top, Trey White's probably going to follow DeAndre Hopkins around, which basically means that I don't even know who the next cornerback is on the team because Levi Wallace and Josh Norman are out because of the COVID stuff. So I would expect Christian Kirk to continue his hot streak. So I like Kirk there. It's tough between John Brown and Chark, right? Because the Arizona defense is also not good. I will probably go weather-wise, and then Luton playing against the Packers defense, I'll probably also go with John Brown as well.
You know what? How confident I am in Christian Kirk here, Show.
Okay.
This is one of my fantasy leagues, okay? This is a bit bold. It's not a danger zone pick that we put out on the fantasy show.
Right.
But it's close. I have chosen to sit Tyler Lockett in favor of Christian Kirk today.
Wow.
Against that Rams defense.
All right.
And the last 2 weeks, Lockett's production has gone down. Now, with DK Metcalf, if he's being followed around by Jamal Adams, it's a case where maybe Lockett gets opened up. But I just really like Kirk, like you said, with those other guys out. And if Hopkins is getting covered, I'm bold. I'm going bold with Kirk there and sitting Tyler Lockett. So we'll see if that bites me in the rear end.
Again, in that same league, I'm playing against Kareem Hunt. I have Tyler Lockett as one of my wide receivers, so I'm hoping you're wrong. That's wrong.
It's boy.
Oh god,
a lot of tough decisions. Let's go to Twitter.
Okay.
At AndyMC81, at SNSLE, at ZMan6565, Mayfield or Lock. Like a little Browns, Baker Mayfield getting in there. Gotta go with Drew Lock though. Show like we just talked about. The Raiders defense stinks. He's going to be comfortable all day as long as he doesn't make poor decisions and gets rid of the ball, not even quickly, but just like is precise. He's going to have a better day than Mayfield because of the weather. Nick Chubb is back. And the Browns starting right guard, Wyatt Teller, who's been a mauler, graded out if you on Pro Football Focus, however you value that.
Sure.
As like the top guard. And when it comes to rushing the football. So Mayfield, this is going to be a run-heavy dose for the Browns today against the Texans. I think you go Drew Lock.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Baker Mayfield, like you said, the weather too, I'm sure will be a factor. And we saw the last time that was a factor. Nobody had a good game from a passing perspective. It wasn't really his fault, but I would probably go the same, and I'd go Drew Lock as well. He hasn't been bad against bad defenses. He has been decent, right? And so I would probably bet on that to continue against the Raiders.
Let's get one more Twitter question, and then we'll get back to the other format questions here.
Sure, let's do it.
We have at VTech Overseer. Hey, gents, if Drake plays, even if just limited, do I start Edmonds or Fournette? Thanks, 12-team non-PPR. Now, this case is scary because we saw Cliff Kingsbury, remember, folks, last year, and it benefited Drake a year ago, where you had David Johnson. Remember, Show? It was David Johnson's healthy. He's going to play. Benched him. Nothing. Death. Awful.
He had like 2 carries or something like that? Or,
it was awful.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was awful. Could that happen again, even if Drake gets set to play? I would say out of this, if Drake is cleared to go, that still makes me very nervous. I think Fournette has really been trending above Ronald Jones in Tampa Bay. I think I'd go with Lenny there.
Yeah, it's tough, right? I mean, because there are 2 running back situations that don't instill a lot of confidence with you. Because since Ronald Jones fumbled, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, Fournette has been given the reins there in Tampa Bay. And then, from an Arizona perspective, Kenyon Drake. I mean, first of all, Kenyon Drake has been underwhelming all season. So I think even if he did play and he was completely healthy, I don't know how confident you would be in Kenyon Drake. Because his last really good game was when they just destroyed the Cowboys on Monday Night Football. And a big part of that was when they're trying to run out the clock and he ran for like a 70-yard
touchdown
at the end of the game, right? So I don't know. It's really tough. For VTech there, who clearly is a Fallout fan, so and so am I. I think that I would probably start Chase Edmonds because they like Chase Edmonds, right? Like they do. He gets a lot of carries even if Kenyon Drake is completely healthy anyways. Remember a couple of weeks ago we were talking about could probably start both of them at a certain point. So yeah, I feel like I'm going to go with Chase Edmonds, especially because of all the injuries and absences the Bills have on their defense.
We got Patrick on Facebook. Oh, actually, we just had that one, the scouring. Sorry. Joe on YouTube. Good morning. Need some help with some picks. Which 3 running backs should I play in full PPR between Connor, Gio Bernard, Mike Davis, or Duke Johnson? Nice roster there, Joe on YouTube. Ooh, that's good. So which 3 should I play? So he has Connor, Gio, Davis, Duke. So essentially sit 1.
Yeah.
So if I'm sitting 1, boy, you know what? It might be Mike Davis. It might be Mike Davis.
You know what? I think I might go with Mike Davis too, because he said it's a full PPR league, right? So, you're first of all, we already said how much we like Duke Johnson. That was in half PPR, so you like him, I guess, twice as much in full PPR. And then, Gio Bernard is Gio Bernard is basically in the exact same situation. He doesn't get a lot of run between the tackles. He's going to get a lot of pass catching through the air. And when Joe Mixon has been out, he has been really good. Mm-hmm. And then James Conner. It's hard not to start James Conner anyways, but you got to think too. And I am starting Big Ben in one of my leagues, first of all. But you got to think that, he did not play all week in practice because of being on the COVID list. He was only taken off yesterday. He will play, like we said off the top of the show. But I just wonder, I wonder, like, if they are worried about him at all. And then you remember he got his knees banged up against the Cowboys as well. Yeah. I wonder if they're trying to protect him or just give him a little less to do at his age, and they want to keep him fresh for the playoffs. If this might not lend itself well to a game script for James Conner. And again, you're not going to bench James Conner unless he's injured anyways. But I do think that this is full PPR makes it even more attractive, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. And Davis, with how good the Bucs have been against the run, and Davis can still catch. We know that, but yeah, out of that group, which I think you're in good shape, Joe. Well done. That's a good roster. Twixmaster on Twitch. That's a great handle. Twixmaster on Twitch. Gio Bernard or Ryan Nall? Gio Bernard. Okay. If I had a sign with paper, I'd hold up Gio Bernard. By the way, is there a sweeter stash in professional football? Gardner Minshew, get out of here. Gio Bernard's stash is legendary level. Have you seen it, Joe? It is gorgeous.
Oh, his mustache. No, I haven't. I thought you meant like stash, like stash on your fantasy football roster. You mean his mustache? No, I have not seen it. No,
his actual mustache is right. Like if you were to say, hold up a picture and like, oh, that's a movie character from a '70s cop drama, you would believe it. It's just spectacular. Ryan Nall here. So Ryan Nall's with the Chicago Bears. It's a half PPR. It says Twixmaster. So David Montgomery is out for the game. So what we're hearing is it could be Ryan Nall, Lamar Miller up from the practice squad, Cordarrelle Patterson, the gadget guy. Do you slide him into the backfield? I don't like the uncertainty. It's a three-headed flip of the coin if Ryan Nall goes. What we do know is Gio Bernard will be starting, will be getting attention. I got to go with the sure thing of Gio without question.
Ooh, yeah, it's not a good situation for the Chicago Bears running back group, right? Cordarrelle Patterson, Nall, Lamar Miller, like you said. Ooh, if there was a better quarterback behind there, even with the amazing defense that is there for Chicago, I think I'd feel more confident that the offense would flow a little smoother even without David Montgomery. But yeah, I have like zero confidence in Ryan Nall, and because this is half PPR for Twixmaster, I feel better again about Gio Bernard being the guy to catch the ball a little bit, because he has. Like, we've seen him do it, and he's been. I don't know how long Gio's been in the NFL for, but it's been a number of years now, and that's kind of his thing, right? So I would feel more confident, especially you add in how many times Joe Burrow throws the ball. The guy throws the ball like 50 to 60 times a game if they're losing. So I feel like you might see some of that today as well.
Lots of Gio questions today. Daniel on Facebook. Remember, Joe Mixon is out for today, folks. Daniel on Facebook. Giovanni Bernard or Melvin Gordon? Going Gio again, based on volume.
Yeah, I agree. It's so hard to go away from Bernard, right? Because no Mixon, you basically know you're getting locked into a certain workload with Gio, right? Yeah. You don't really know what the workload is going to be like for Melvin Gordon or for Phillip Lindsay. And like, sure, is the possibility there that Gordon breaks one for a long touchdown and your fantasy day is saved? For sure it is. Absolutely it is. We saw that a lot against teams that have like bad defenses, and certainly the Raiders, God, are closer to being a bad fantasy defense than not. But at the same time, yeah, I think I would probably feel more comfortable with Gio, even though Daniel didn't say what like if it's half PPR or what. But either way,
yeah, either way, the workload, Gio's going to get it. Flamsis 04, pick who will win.
I think it's Flames. I think from the guy who always, it's always. I think it's just a misspelling.
That's a typo. Producer Drew. I'm like
you're like Ron Burgundy. Yeah.
I'll read whatever's in front of me. Flamsis. All right, Flamsis. You know who you are. Who will you pick? Cincinnati or Pittsburgh in Seattle or the Rams? Got to go Pittsburgh and Seattle. I just think that you can still outscore the Rams, where like Buffalo last week could go toe to toe.
Right.
I'm not as confident that Goff can keep pace, so I'm going to pick Seattle.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to agree with you on those two picks. Pittsburgh for sure. It's crazy to think they're going to be potentially going to be what, like 9-0 after this game, which is wild. First of all, crazy that in their like very long history as an NFL franchise, they had never started 8-0 before. You would think at least one time, maybe even going back to the Steel Curtain days, they would have. Right. But anyways, I do like them this week, even if it might be a little closer than you might imagine. And I also do like Seattle. Also, looking at the lines, because I know we get to this usually at the end of the program, but still, looking at the lines, Seattle is plus 2.5. They're the underdogs against
2.5 underdogs.
Yeah, so I'm taking this. I'm taking plus 2.5 all day.
That's surprising.
Yeah,
that's surprising to me. Yeah, I would take Seattle straight up for sure. And then Steelers are 7.5 to beat the Bengals by 7.5. Yeah, I can see that. And I only say that because Joe Burrow is good enough to keep you, like, you'll lose, but to get like a late garbage touchdown to like lose by 6.
Right.
Or something. So that's why I hesitate a little bit on it, but I still think, Pittsburgh can get it outright.
Yeah, that Pittsburgh game, I think they'll win, but that just screams of like some just filthy backdoor cover, something, yes. Really, and you're like, you're like just sitting there at the end of the game thinking, okay, they're going to win by 7.5, and then he gets like a late field goal or a late touchdown. Yeah, like I don't know, and then you just sitting there feeling bad about it. So I'm going to stay away from the line for Pittsburgh and Cincinnati.
Yeah, maybe keep it like straight up winner type of thing. Okay, Gary on YouTube, Mike Davis or Nick Chubb PPR? Nick Chubb all day. And
look who you're asking, Gary. Look at who you're asking.
Come on, baby. And you know what? I'll tell you, even if I wasn't, Nick Chubb would be the play because he is back, and I've been tracking this. He's back from injury. You had the bye. Apparently, he could have potentially gone even last week, but Cleveland was on the bye.
Right.
He had a knee brace to start the week. They took the knee brace off. 3 days of straight practice, no knee brace. He is expected to get a full workload. Now, we're taking the coaching staff's word for it. So, there's always a risk. It is wet. Is there a risk of re-injury? I suppose. But the injury was an MCL sprain.
Right.
Nothing torn, nothing like that. So it's not like, you're coming off of an ACL or an Achilles or something like that and you're hoping. So I think you should be fine. Again, against the Houston Texans defense that is literally giving up the most rushing yards per game. It just makes too much sense. I can't not play him.
It does feel like it's like it makes too much sense, right?
That's the thing. It makes too much sense.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I do think Nick Chubb is the play there. It's not that as though Mike Davis is going to be bad. Like if Gary decides to play Mike Davis in a PPR league, I think he'll be fine because, like you said, he catches the ball too. They use him much like Christian McCaffrey, and McCaffrey will probably be back next week. But yeah, I think Nick Chubb is the better play because, look, when did you draft Nick Chubb? Probably in the first round, I would imagine, or like late first round.
Probably end of the first,
right?
Yeah.
So depending on how big your league is, like a 10-team league or a 12-team league or more, late first round, early second round, latest. So you've held on to Nick Chubb this long. He's been absolutely terrific. So I would say play him, and he does get a little bit of work in the passing game, although I don't expect that to be too much of a factor in a high windy situation today.
No, not at all. Meanie 10 on YouTube. Kyler or Allen today on DraftKings, pretty much the same price. So you got Kyler Murray, $8,000 on DraftKings. Josh Allen, $7,500. Bills traveling cross country.
Yep.
But listen, I think either way you're going to be just fine. Now, if we look at like Josh Allen coming off of that game last week, my goodness, what a star! But we're talking about Kyler Murray back-to-back 41 plus fantasy point days, and we know he can throw it, he can run it. Both guys can. I'm just looking at Allen here. 39 last week. Allen, the defense, his production was getting a little stagnant for a while and really popped back. I think Kyler Murray's worth the extra $500 being at home. Now, if you were traveling to bad weather Buffalo, I would totally go the other way. But I think this being in Arizona, you go with Kyler Murray.
Inside too, right? In a dome at the University of Arizona. Yeah, you know what? It's hard, right? Because I always like to say, when it comes to DraftKings especially, that if you can save somewhere and still have a good option, it might be worth spending that $500 elsewhere. But I guess you also have to consider that when it comes to Kyler Murray specifically, you're also getting the production of like half a running back for an extra $500. Like essentially is what you're getting, right?
Yeah.
So maybe it is in this particular case worth it to pay the $8,000. Although for Meanie 10, if he ends up going with Josh Allen for $500 less, I wonder if it might not be worth it to spend, just as I'm thinking about it out loud, to spend the $7,500 on Allen and then spend that extra $500 and on someone like J.D. McKissic or something like that, right?
And set the lineup and see what your options are.
Yeah, that's the thing. You got to really kind of play with it and tinker with it because of how DFS works. But Kyler Murray's been great. Also, the prop bet for Kyler Murray rush yards 51.5. I like that too.
That's not bad. Also, you mentioned J.D. McKissic. In case we don't get a J.D. McKissic question, I'm so bullish on J.D. McKissic this week, guys. I'm just as far as PPR. I never thought we'd hear or see this, but J.D. McKissic had the most passing routes run. He ran the most passing routes of anyone in the National Football League last week.
Yeah, that's wild.
Anyone. Does that blow you away? If you were to give you 1,000 chances, would you ever pick J.D. McKissic to have that stat?
Yeah, no one would.
No one. And he had 14 targets. Why does that make sense? Well, Alex Smith is a dink and dunker. He's making his first official start in how many years? And he likes J.D. McKissic. You got to follow. And for another thing I never thought we'd say, you have both running backs PPR serviceable in Week 10 in Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissic. I think J.D. McKissic, you got to get in your lineup and check your waiver wire, folks. If you're in a bit of trouble this week with the buys and J.D. McKissic's there, I picked him up off waivers. I got him in one of my leagues.
PPR, though, we got to say, PPR
yes.
much more valuable.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But I think I might, if it was standard league, I might leave him on the bench in a standard league because I think Antonio Gibson, it just, you know what I mean? The catches are what makes him a lot more valuable. But yeah, I agree. The
catches,
yeah, exactly. I think if he is available and your waivers have not processed it, 'cause I think in a lot of leagues, if they don't process in over the night, right? They don't process at 3 a.m. or something like that. A lot of places they process, I think, at lunchtime, on the day of, right? So considering we're at least here in our time zone, we're half an hour away from when they would usually process. So if that is if you listen to our show here, or you wanting some fantasy pickups, I think you be sure to check your waiver rules because sometimes they do process before the game start.
Exactly. So you can get in on there. Alex on YouTube and a half PPR. Would you rather start D Johnson, so Duke Johnson, I'm assuming, or Christian Kirk? Now that could be Deontay Johnson.
Oh, that's true. He says wide receiver, so maybe he means Deontay.
At wide receiver. Oh, at wide receiver. Okay. So I'm assuming Deontay. Would you rather start Deontay Johnson or Christian Kirk at wide receiver? Then in flex, would you start whichever wide receiver of the above I don't start, or see Edmonds, Fournette, DJ Dallas, or Phillip Lindsay? Thanks. Okay, so half PPR.
So a wide receiver and a flex, basically.
I'll say Kirk. You know what? I think Kirk and Johnson out of those groups, to be honest. I think you could. I like both. I think Deontay Johnson, target share wise, he keeps getting looks. He's getting between 8 to 12 targets a game when he's healthy.
More. Yeah.
Sometimes 15.
Yeah, true.
So I think for me, I would go in this scenario, Kirk and Johnson to cover both.
That's not a bad one. Right? I mean, he does say half PPR, which does make someone like Chase Edmonds, a little more valuable. And I don't mind DJ Dallas as well. It's not a bad choice to have. But yeah, I think against the Bengals for Johnson and against the Bills defense for Kirk, I probably would go with those two as well. Kirk at wide receiver and Deontay not that it matters, but for flex, both games, I think. Actually, is the Pittsburgh game one of the later afternoon games? I think it is, right? It is.
Let me take because of the Masters. Yeah, it's 4:25.
Yeah, because the Masters. Yeah, the Masters going on right now. And producer Drew, last time I checked, he told me that Dustin Johnson not doing so well. So I hope you didn't. Too many people didn't bet on Dustin Johnson after yesterday's great performance. But yeah, because of the Masters, a lot of only 5 1 o'clock games.
Yeah, only 5.
And then a couple of we have I think 3 4:05 games, and I think 3 more 4:25 games. So a lot of afternoon games today, making those kind of do I wait until the afternoon? Do I play a guy at 1 o'clock? Making those questions a little easier to answer this week.
Well, that's it. And do you like Carr over Herbert? I do not. I would play Justin Herbert until he gives you a reason not to. And he hasn't given me a reason not to.
Even against a really good Miami Dolphins defense, I would say.
That's true. We always say don't chase. You also, if you're seeing something positive, why go away from it?
Yeah, agreed.
something's working. He can run, he can pass. He's kind of like, I kind of feel sort of like on the path of a Josh Allen, big bodied dude who can sling it and isn't afraid.
Yeah. I mean, look, and you got to think too. I mean, he came into the starting role like cold essentially because after being alerted just like the day of, I think the morning of, and now he's one of the better, like weeks and weeks later, he's one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, I would say. And this is just his rookie year. I mean, I expect big things out of Herbert in years to come.
Well, imagine if you're like Justin Herbert and you figure you're not playing, and then it's like, the starting quarterback got stabbed in the lung by the team doctor. You're in, kid. Like, spit out the cough. What? And then the dude's been balling out ever since. You got to go with Herbert. Question on YouTube: whether considered Rodgers or Jackson? Aaron Rodgers lives in Lambeau. The weather doesn't scare him.
Yeah.
He's going to throw it 12 to 14 times to Devontae Adams. I'm going Aaron Rodgers, and I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, look, even if weather wasn't a factor, Aaron Rodgers, based on what he has done, like outside of the one stinker against Tampa Bay, he has been great, right? Like I think I know you can't always say, take out this game and look at the stats, right? Take out this play, look at the stats, but like quite literally, outside of that one game, which was I think his first worst fantasy game ever of his entire career, Aaron Rodgers averages around 26 points this season. So I think, and that's a little better than what Lamar Jackson hasn't been what you wanted, certainly. And he is going up against a pretty not great Patriots defense tonight. But at the same time, I think you feel better with Aaron Rodgers, even with the weather, going up against like one of the worst defenses in the NFL in Jacksonville.
And you know what? It's interesting because the New England defense is certainly nowhere close to what it was last year. But fantasy-wise, they have given up the fourth fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks. Now, of course, you got to consider Lamar, the running side, which is a big part of it. But he's been so up and down. You have like sort of weird kind of infighting. Hollywood Brown 2 weeks ago tweeting out like essentially, what am I doing here? Why aren't you throwing me the ball? Because he can't. And then Lamar complaining, defenses are calling out my plays. Because you run all the time. Because that's all you can do. And then Greg Roman coming back the other way disagreeing. Seems like it's a little weird, even though the record's very good. And if you have Lamar Jackson, you're going to play him. I would still go with Aaron Rodgers in unfavorable conditions in Green Bay.
I hope you're ready for a Ravens Super Bowl win this year, Andy.
God, I will be. It's either going to be
a Ravens Steelers AFC Championship game with one of them winning the Super Bowl.
Oh God! Yeah.
It's like your worst nightmare. I feel
that would happen. Well, Ravens have already won 2 Super Bowls. The old Browns. Those are my Super Bowls.
That's right. Yeah.
My Super Bowls. Baltimore. Ratbirds. Anyway. All right. Mainstream _ games on YouTube. Just traded James Robinson for Kareem Hunt and Tyler Boyd.
Ooh.
Now need to decide Claypool or Brandon Cooks for flex.
Interesting.
Ooh. Okay. So we talked about the weather a lot in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Deshaun Watson with no running game, he's either going to run it himself or be forced to throw the ball.
Right.
Now, you can pop Cooks in the slot a bit, but mainly an X route guy, a deep guy. I wonder how they sort of adjust on the fly. Now we look at Chase Claypool and we know, my goodness, like how this guy has popped, right?
Yeah.
He's been ridiculous.
Mapletron.
But with Deontay Johnson healthy, like we just talked about, we've seen the target share go way up for him. And I'm looking, you know what? I'm still going to go Chase Claypool just because I think, even though the weather, you're not on a beach there in Pittsburgh, but it looks less wet and windy and stuff than in Cleveland. So I'll go Chase Claypool here, but it's a little dicey.
You know what? That's closer. It's a good question because it's closer than I think you would otherwise think because of the weather. If weather wasn't an issue, I would say Brandon Cooks and don't think twice about it. Yeah. But because, like you said, Cooks runs those deep routes, that's kind of his main value there. He's a speedster, right? And while Will Fuller kind of operates, he does too, but he kind of operates everywhere, whereas Cooks, from his time with the Patriots and his time with the Rams, certainly that's what he likes to do. So yeah, I'm gonna, by the slimmest of margins because of the weather, I'm gonna go Chase Claypool because I feel like sometimes we forget about the weather. But based on what we saw out of the last time there was bad weather for a team playing the Browns, I remember we heartily endorsed Nelson Aguilar, and then he didn't get a single catch that day. So
because of the weather,
because of the weather, right? So I think I'm gonna go away from Cookson just to be on the safe side.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think, and it's against the Bengals defense, which is very beatable.
Right.
So, Pat on Facebook, DJ Dallas or Fournette? I do like Leonard Fournette this week. I do over Ronald Jones, but there's still a timeshare question. Now, not to say we're not going to have that in Seattle with Chris Carson out and Carlos Hyde out, but you still have Travis Homer. Alex Collins got brought up from the practice squad last week, didn't do anything. I'm still going to go with DJ Dallas. 2 back-to-back week with touchdowns. Looks like he has a nose for the end zone. He's actually been dropped in 25% of Yahoo leagues in the past 24 hours. Yep. I think if you need help, I'd go get DJ Dallas. I think people are fading on him too quick. So I'll go DJ here.
I guess because like the quagmire, I don't know if it's really a true quagmire, but just because of Travis Homer being a little healthier, I guess. Yes. But yeah, I still think, I mean, he clearly is the most, and again, this is no diss to Travis Homer, but I think he is clearly the DJ Dallas when he's healthy. He is the most talented running back. I mean, maybe at least as talented as Chris Carson. I mean, Chris Carson is very talented himself. It's just injuries and so on have kind of stifled his production, right? But yeah, when it comes to the running backs, yeah, I think it's hard because Fournette also isn't a timeshare, but I'm gonna say DJ Dallas this week as well.
And let's see, we got Jerick McKinnon or Leonard Fournette. Boy. Oh, my man, Jerick McKinnon show.
Oh, his fantasy day was saved by a touchdown at the 1 yard line with 4 seconds left in that game. Like if 4 seconds had passed and he hadn't had that touchdown, it would have been like a complete dud. I feel like
good to be lucky to be good. Show okay, it happens both ways. I can't quit Jerick McKinnon. This could be a total trick hose job by Kyle Shanahan. A chirp to the fit. He's like, he's got fresh legs. We're going to work him. Is he?
JaMychal Hasty gets 25 carries and 2 touchdowns.
I'm going to bite. I'm going to bite one more week. I'm going to go back to McKinnon because point-wise, the guy, he had 3 duds, but outside of that, all year he has a nice sandwich of good fantasy production. Give me McKinnon.
Ooh, yeah, it's hard. I don't know, man. I neither of them. I'll put it this way: neither of them I'm putting in more as a flex, or than more as a flex. You know what I mean? Like I'm not putting McKinnon as anything more than a flex. Same goes for Fournette. You know what? I guess I'll go Jerick McKinnon as well. Even though the Saints are a very talented team and they stifled a lot of guys, including Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones last week. But yeah, I think like the hot hand approach scares me so much for both of these teams because if McKinnon screws something up, then you're just going to give the ball to Hasty, and same goes for Fournette. If he fumbles once, he's going to be stapled to the bench for the rest of that game, right? So I think ultimately I'll go with McKinnon, but yeah, I admit Flames 0404. I don't love it.
We have hesitation on all of it. Yes. Nick on YouTube, Chase Claypool or Deontay Johnson at flex today. That's for the Steelers, like we said before. I don't dislike Chase Claypool, but I like Deontay Johnson more just because when he is healthy, Big Ben keeps going to him, man.
He does, yeah.
And I don't know if this is PPR or not. Really, in this case, I think out of those two, anyway, I'll go Deontay Johnson no matter what. But certainly more valuable in PPR.
Yeah, I'm going Deontay as well because of the healthier target share for sure.
Yeah. Noah on YouTube, start Swift or Robbie Anderson. Ooh-wee. All right, I'm gonna say I'm gonna ride with Robbie because you got, like I said before, you have Tampa Bay has 13th most yards per catch. So against the pass, they're not as good as you think. Against the run, really good, giving up the fewest yards per carry so far. So I'm going to say Robbie Anderson. Is it a bit of a question because Teddy Bridgewater can get it to DJ Moore? Curtis Samuel's been on fire the last 3 weeks. You got Mike Davis, yes. But it seems to me show that Robbie Anderson and Teddy Bridgewater have just a nice knack and that he's going to be getting you mid to high teens fantasy points.
Yeah, it's true, right? I mean, no news here on whether or not it's a PPR league or what. But yeah, when it comes to Robbie Anderson, I think he is in that solid WR2 range, I guess, category. Yeah. Because DJ Moore, I mean, I still think DJ Moore is the most talented wide receiver on the squad.
Agreed.
And I feel like maybe in the coming seasons, you might see him on a different team if things continue this way, much like Robbie Anderson was. But it just like they seem to make DJ Moore run deep most of the time, and Teddy Bridgewater just doesn't throw the ball deep all that much, right? He's not quite Alex Smith in a dink and dunk, but he does like to throw the ball at those short to intermediate routes, and that's where Robbie Anderson, like they've been using Robbie Anderson almost exclusively in that role with Curtis Samuel underneath while DJ goes deep. I don't know why they've been doing that, but I mean, hey, it's working for the Panthers.
It's
certainly
been fine.
So, they don't care about our fantasy teams, right? So if that's the case, then I'm going to go Robbie Anderson as well. Not that Swift is bad or by any means. He paces the lines and carries and touches in general, but I think it's a safer bet to go with Robbie Anderson.
Well, the ceiling is so much lower with Swift.
That's the
based
thing,
on usage, right? Like it's a good day for Swift is 15 fantasy points.
He's so good. Like Swift is so talented, but it's just they don't use him. Like, they use him like DJ Moore, basically. Right?
It's a bad situation. You got Detroit. It's where fantasy running backs go to die. It's terrible. And you know what? For a DraftKings stack, if you want to get in on like the low ownership contrarian play, how about a Teddy Bridgewater, Robbie Anderson stack? That's, I'm not saying it's going to be the home run, but for low ownership and contrarian, there's some upside there.
Sure, I don't mind that.
I kind of think you could go there. Ayan on YouTube, do Metcalf or Robert Woods at flex today, boys?
Ooh, can you start both of them?
Oh yeah, if you could start both. Oof, I would do both, to be honest.
Who else does he have at wide receiver that he can't start both, I wonder?
Yeah, Ayan, you know what? If you can text back, producer Drew, if Ayan messages back, let us know who your other wide receivers are. Because, if you can get both in, who else do you got that you can't get both in there? Listen, I know the Rams defense is solid. DK Metcalf, just like we talked about Justin Herbert, he's got to give me a reason not to play him.
That's the thing, right? I mean, he might be shadowed by Jalen Ramsey, but I mean, and here's the thing: we saw him get shadowed by Patrick Peterson in Arizona, and he kind of he had like 4 points in a PPR league. But at the same time, is Jalen Ramsey as good as Patrick Peterson? That's a separate debate. And I mean, Jalen Ramsey hasn't had the greatest of success this year, 100% necessarily when shadowing guys. And I mean, we don't know if Jalen Ramsey will 100% shadow DK Metcalf the entire game. Maybe he moves on to Tyler Lockett. Maybe he moves on to different receivers, right? So, but yeah, like you said, like that's a good way to put it, Andy. Like Justin Herbert, until he shows you that he can't do it, then you go with him. But man, Robert Woods against that Seattle Seahawks secondary, there are few things as enticing as that, I would say.
I like that a lot. Jason on Facebook, I have Kamara, Hunt, Edmonds, and McKissick, and only 3 RB slots in PPR league. Who's benched? I'm going to bench Edmonds because of the question with Kenyon Drake. I'm so bullish on McKissick this week. Yeah, I'd say bench Edmonds.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with you too. You can't bench Alvin Kamara.
No,
he is like if there was ever like the fantasy mantra of like start your studs, Kamara's at the top of the list, I feel like, right? So you can never bench him if he is healthy. We already talked about J.D. McKissick, and Hunt is definitely very good as well, especially in a game where, like we've been talking about a lot today, lots of running will go on. And Edmonds, like we said, I still like him, even if Kenyon Drake does play, but the danger that he could have either, like the volatility in terms of the difference between his ceiling and the floor is really high, whereas I feel like it's not so high for the other 3 guys.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. All right, Josh on YouTube. Yo, guys. Yo, Josh. Should I go with Ayuk or Claypool for flex today? Half PPR. Because Deebo Samuel's out.
Yeah, we do Ayuk too.
I'm still going to go Ayuk. Yeah, like Nick Mullins. You know what? Nick Mullins hasn't been too bad.
Yeah, he's been okay.
To distribute the ball, he hasn't been too bad. He's not been. We're not talking about a Ben DiNucci situation here with Dallas. This is a serviceable quarterback. Right. DiNucci, come on. I'd say we're in agreement on Ayuk.
I think so, yes.
Okay. Nick on YouTube, Antonio Brown, all caps too. He's yelling at a show. Antonio Brown, Leonard Fournette, or Darrell Henderson, full PPR.
Ooh, it's hard. It's a tough one.
Oh, I need to see what Antonio Brown is in this offense.
That's the thing.
I don't know. Mike Evans is still there. Chris Godwin is still there. Rob Gronkowski is still there. And you got the running backs. What is Antonio Brown? Until I know, I'm not interested. Darrell Henderson, now, he's shaken off the quad injury. The injury designation is gone. He's going to be the lead back. Do I like him over Leonard Fournette? But I think I might.
Yeah.
I think I might go Henderson.
I think I'm going to go Henderson as well. Yeah, like you said, the quad injury, and I think they took him out of the game Because I think you're right. The Rams played the Dolphins and they had their bye. Now they're back against the Seahawks, and he got taken out of the game against the Dolphins towards the end of the game. But he looked like he was standing on the sidelines. I think they were just being they're being cautious because they were down by a lot, and the bye week was next week. So why aggravate something like that when you have someone like Malcolm Brown there? So. And then over the course of the bye, even right after the Dolphins game, Sean McVay said, "Yeah, he'll be fine." And then I know we make a lot of fun about the whole coach speak thing, but I feel like he is actually telling the truth here, if only because there was no injury designation on him, like you said. So yeah, I think he doesn't get a ton of work in the passing game, but I think I'm going to roll the dice and go with Darrell Henderson at least over the timeshare that Fournette is in and the unknown what AB is.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. Let's go with Henderson. Scott on Facebook. Good morning, guys. Morning, Scott. Would you play Goddard or Andrews half-point PPR? I don't care what type of league format it is, Joe. Goddard, give me Goddard twice. I want twice Goddard, 2 times Goddard. Because the time before the bye, so the Eagles had the bye, they're back, and he was injured for that whole time, came back, got 1 target, whatever, working off the rust. I like that they got him in because the rust can be shaken off. He got extra time to get healthy. Now, you do have other Eagles wide receivers getting healthy. Alshon Jeffrey does not scare me. Jalen Reagor will get some touches, but he doesn't scare me. You got Fulgham, and you know that Carson Wentz has the chemistry, loves throwing to the tight end. So I'm going to go Goddard over this. Mark Andrews show. I went off on the fantasy show with this. Mark Andrews, the last 3 games, has gotten less than 5 fantasy points and has not scored a touchdown since week 5.
And here's another argument against starting Mark Andrews, because I'm going to go Goddard as well, because I think he's probably – I feel like he was activated not too soon last time, but just simply he was still working his way back from conditioning and injury and so on. They didn't want to use him too much, but now he's fully integrated into the game plan, and we know Wentz likes him, so we're going to go Goddard. But another argument against Mark Andrews, the Patriots have faced Travis Kelce, George Kittle when he was fully healthy, and Darren Waller, essentially the 3 of the best tight ends in the NFL. And none of them had particularly good days. I think Travis Kelce had the best day of the 3 of them. And you look at the stats, and the Patriots on the whole, after facing those 3 guys, still give up the fewest fantasy points to tight ends this season. So, is there a possibility that Mark Andrews catches a 5-yard touchdown pass? Sure there is. But what are the chances of that with a low volume passing offense like the Ravens do, right? So I think I'm with you, and we'll both go Goddard, I think.
Yeah, he has never seen double-digit targets in his whole career.
It's wild.
Isn't that nuts? And has only gotten over 8 targets twice all year. You can't count on him. You just can't. It's too volatile, that whole passing situation in Baltimore with Lamar.
He's very talented, but I mean,
I don't blame Mark Andrews. Yeah. It's not Mark Andrews' fault. Hollywood Brown too. He's running. He's like, "Hey man, I'm here. Hello." Guy can't get him the ball. What are you going to do? Alan on YouTube, Lamar Jackson or Herbert? Herbert.
Yeah. That's it. Herbert. No, nothing else. Yeah, it's true. I think the Patriots, the defense has been right, because I feel like you think about the defenses, they're playing a good defense in Miami for Herbert versus a not so great defense for the Patriots. But you got to consider too that I know Joe Flacco just lit them up last week for I think 24 points or something like that, right? But at the same, Flacco, wild, moving pass. Who was it, Andy? Joe Montana? Yeah, wild, right? On the all-time passing yards list. But, I think you got to also remember Stephon Gilmore is coming back healthy this week. So that, his presence alone changes that entire Patriots defense, because then he gets to move on to the top guy, whereas J.C. Jackson, who was, I think, exposed by Brashad Perriman in a lot of those long coverage plays. He did get an interception at the end of the game, but still now he can go and move on to someone like Willie Snead or something like that. So I still like Herbert because, like we said before, until he gives you a reason to not play him, you have to play him, even against a good Dolphins defense.
Yeah, he's fearless. He'll squeeze it in the windows. Yeah. And so, what makes me sad is that there's going to be in 20 years, there's going to be a casual football fan, maybe a youngster getting in. And they're going to look at the all-time stat line, and they're going to think Joe Flacco is better than Joe Montana. They're going to think Joe Flacco is a better quarterback because of passing yards. That makes me sad.
Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP, Joe Elite Flacco.
Joe Flacco.
Take that, Joe Montana.
Greater than. The greater Joe is Flacco. That's sad. All right. Trent on Facebook. Morning, guys. Morning, Trent. Half-point PPR, Curtis Samuel or T. Higgins? Let's start with that one. He's got a couple questions here.
Okay.
Curtis Samuel. It's been 3 straight weeks in a row, show.
I'm buying in. I'm buying in, Andy.
Buying in.
Yeah,
especially with T. Higgins in that pass defense and the rush and the blitz of the Steelers that can get at you. They came out flat against Dallas. That was disappointing last week. They came out flat. I think if it's interdivision game, I think they get spiced back up a little bit. Yeah, I really like T. Higgins. I'll go Curtis Samuel. And I said as soon as I pick him, the bust is going to come opposite the room. I'll go Samuel. Need quarterback stream. No Mahomes. So Chiefs on bye. So he's without Mahomes. Picked up Wentz, but weather forecast is wind and rain. Also available Tua, Carr, Locke, and Bridgewater.
Ooh.
I still like Wentz. Now, out of that group, I just said I'm really bullish on Bridgewater. I think I might go with Teddy over that, but I still might hold on to Wentz. I still might hold on to Wentz.
Wentz has been sneaky good. He's been sneaky good this past little while, and the Eagles are healthier than they've been all year, right?
Yeah,
I mean, Miles Sanders is back. Yeah, and Lane Johnson is back. Alshon Jeffrey is back. Now, how much Alshon Jeffrey contributes from a fantasy perspective is a different conversation, but his presence certainly can't hurt, right? I mean, if he's back. So
someone has to be on him.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, and that maybe that opens up things for guys like Goddard and so on. But yeah, Wentz is, like, if I had to rank them, maybe I'd go Wentz, Teddy. I might go Tua and then Locke and Carr. I might go like that.
I would go Wentz, Bridgewater, Locke, Tua. Locke, Tua, and Carr.
Carr, right.
Yeah. But pretty close. Pretty close.
It is close. Agreed. It is close between Locke and Tua. I went Tua over him, but I think it is close. And the last thought on Curtis Samuel, I mean, don't expect too much from the rushing production, I would say. Yeah. I know they do like to run it with him a couple times, and he had like 2 or 3 straight weeks with a rushing touchdown and a passing or a catching touchdown receiving. I think while that might not hold up, I do still like Curtis Samuel because Teddy clearly likes him. Like, he has a rapport with Curtis Samuel.
There's no doubt. Let's get to some of our best bets here. I'm going to start with Bills and Cardinals in Arizona. Cards are 2.5-point favorites, and the over-under set at 56.5. We saw how the Bills lit up Seattle. Arizona's defense is better, but not elite. And if Kyler Murray can exploit some weaknesses in the Bills' defense, it might force them into a shootout. I'm going to take over on points, and I'll take Bills to win outright.
Okay, so you're taking the Bills at plus 2.5. Okay.
Yeah, and over on the over-under.
And the over as well, yeah. Okay, so I also I mentioned the Denver. I like Denver plus 3.5 against the Raiders. I like Minnesota -3 against Chicago, just because no David Montgomery means Nick Foles is going to have to throw the ball a lot, meaning that I think they might be in for some turnovers. So we're going to go with Minnesota. I'm going to go with Minnesota. We also already mentioned Seattle plus 2.5 versus the Rams. Mm-hmm. That's a good one as well. We'll recap that. And I also like New Orleans -10 versus San Francisco. I know anytime you get into double digits is a little dicey.
Yeah.
So I know maybe like if you have other bets you like a little better, go with those. But I do still like the Saints have been so good, right? I mean, and the Saints that also kind of plays into my survivor picks for this week. So here are a couple options for survivors. Okay. I do like the Packers against Jacksonville. Yep. And I like in their home, and then the Saints are also at home against the 49ers. So those are my 2 survivor picks. If you need a third, I like the Eagles against the Giants as well. But I mean, that's a little lower down on the list.
Yeah, that one's nice. You know what? In that Packers-Jaguars game, definitely Packers to win for a survivor pool pick. I'm with you. I might take the Jags to cover the 14 just because of the weather, right? Like, it could be a little closer. And like Jake Luton proved last week, he can at least get you some garbage points, right? He can
no Jair Alexander, probably, right, because of the concussion stuff, right? So I also, you know what I also really like, Andy? Under 55 total for Houston and Cleveland because of the weather again.
That's a great play on the under. Absolutely, I'm with you on that one. Yeah.
And then last couple of prop bets, if we have a little time for that. Kyler Murray over 51.5 rush yards. I mentioned that. John Brown, I didn't mention this one. I like John Brown over 47.5 receiving yards.
I'll take that.
I like that one. And I also mentioned already Jared Goff over 289.5 passing yards. So
see, those are
my prop bets.
I'll go under on the prop bets for Goff.
Okay.
Like 289, if it was 250, I could do it. The 289 just, oof. That makes me a little nervous. I wouldn't be super surprised if it happened because of the
Seahawks. Yeah,
but I don't know that one. I'll go under at that one. We'll see how that plays out. Right there. Hey, you know what? If you got any other fantasy football questions before kickoff, you can hit us up on Twitter at AndyMC81 at SNSLE, and make sure you're tuning in every Sunday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. across the Sportsnet radio network for the fantasy show delivered by Domino's Pizza. We got you covered there too, all day, right up until kickoff. Show, enjoy the games, buddy.
Thank you very much. I hope the Browns game isn't too messy for you, Andy.
Yes, me either. And good luck to your Pats. All right, there you go. For producer Drew, for show, I'm Andy. You've been watching Fantasy Football Live on Sportsnet.